Welcome to Rapture Ready 78. This is my first video on this new channel, and so I thought I would describe to you why I'm making this and a little bit of my background. So my background is quite tough. I suffer with a lot of physical pain. I have autism, and I have other mental health disorders too with that. But I have a lot of physical pain, and I watch a lot of other like Watchmen channels, and like a lot of people in this world who can get out of their homes and mingle and talk and do all that type of stuff with the church. I'm not so easily able to do. It's not that easy for me to do, and speaking became very difficult for me. It may seem fine right now at this moment, but I have dysphonia of my throat. I have a lot of different problems, physical problems, and along with my physical pain. So I have intractable pain disorders. I have 4 suicide diseases, and I was damaged by the what, which I don't want to get myself in trouble on here already. And it damaged my gallbladder, and I needed it out. And so I don't want to give too much about myself in this, but I made this because God did touch my life, despite all the physical pain, and that's kind of a testament to, right? I'll tell you in further in my channel how he did, because I think it's quite important. So I wanted to make this because I want to reach people, and it's hard to get to people, to talk to like-minded people. I came from a Catholic background. I am not in the Catholic system. I don't want to be in the Catholic system because they don't believe in a lot of things that they think are not true. So I don't like giving denominations and stuff like that. If I was to say anything, I would say, hey, I believe what the Bible says. I believe in the infallibility of the Bible, and that should be the only denomination, and that's what I think. So whenever you have a problem, whenever someone tries to trick you, or not trick you, or says something false, we live in an age where we can just go back to our computers, right? And we can go on Google and look it up. It's that easy. You can basically ask questions these days. You can ask Google a question, it'll answer you. It doesn't mean it will come up with the right question, but it can bring you to a lot of verses that will prove. So myself, and I don't want to do comparisons. I don't know as much as a lot of other people. I've read the Bible several times over. I understand it. I haven't read all the New Old Testament, but I've read quite a bit of it. So I can't throw out verses and stuff like that, but I certainly remember things enough to know what's going on in this world. So let's start off here. Let's start off with family. I'm going to tell you something that's worried me of late, and that's, I know the end is coming. You know the end is coming. I will provide you, and that's why you're probably here on this channel watching me. I didn't want to talk too much about myself. I don't want to do that. When you know the end is coming, and if you're watching this, you know the end is coming for reasons I'll provide. I started to go to, when I lay back in my bed at night, I would worry about, I have 4 brothers. My mother has passed away now, but she's in Christ. I know she believed in Jesus, so that's good. But what can you do if they don't listen to you, right? You can only tell them so much. You can only do so much. Like I write an email to make it not so, in your face. But you can only do that so much, right? And you can only point out these signs to people. And it's not nice knowing that you know personally in your heart, and other people don't want to believe it, that there are only two places you go after you die, and there is no in between. You know the story of Lazarus and all that. There is no in between. As he says, there is a gulf between us. I can't bridge that gap to get to you. Abraham is saying. So I have to take breaks here and there for my breath. Number one, and I should have said this at the beginning, is what do you have to do to be saved? And the answer is pretty simple. And yes, people make it pretty tough. To be saved, all you have to do is confess with your mouth, believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, that he came here, that he existed, that he died, he was tortured a brutal death for us, and he came back and he defeated Satan, right? So in the New Testament, that's the prerequisite. That's it. That's all. And any works added to that, lest any man should boast. So it's not about works anymore. And I understand people always get so up in arms about this when it comes to works. So when it comes to works, do works matter? Do I have to do works? It doesn't say you have to do works. But I found two spots at the end of Revelation, and I think in the book of John, where it says, works, you will be judged for your works still. I'm not saying you have to, but in further looking, what I think is, if you're a true Christian, you believe, why wouldn't you do that? So it doesn't say you have to, but if you are in tune with Jesus Christ and you know Jesus Christ, then those things probably will come to your mind. Help people, talk to people about God, do stuff like that. I don't. That's about as far as I'll go about that. So confessing with your mouth that Jesus Christ is always going to save you, and it's a good time to do it. And that brings me to where I think it was David who said this. He said, the fool says in his heart, I don't know if it was him or Solomon, the fool says in his heart that there is no God. And what else was it? All right, give me a second here. I have to eat while I do this because my stomach. Matthew 24 tells us everything we need to know to match up with what's happening today. All the things. So go read Matthew 24 and it will tell you, and it will match up. And after you read it, you tell me if you think that matches what's happening today. With earthquakes, pestilences, famines, all the corruption. It's all there. It's all there. What can you do if all these signs are here? Like I said in another video I did on another channel, if I were to tell you that tomorrow this, and this was going to happen, and it happened, you might be wowed by it, right? But what if you don't believe? And I think immediately to a verse, I think it was Isaiah who says, but who have believed our report? They sent Moses, they sent all these people, they sent all the prophets, and they just killed them, and they didn't believe them. So if I were to tell you this, and this was going to happen tomorrow to a perfect 100% accuracy, and I did it day after day after day, would you believe me? And so this is actually what's happening. And go read Matthew 24, Luke 21, and Mark 13, because they tell you. When the disciples asked Jesus, so it's called the Olivet Discourse, when the disciples asked Jesus, how do we know it's going to be at the end of the age? And so he gives an entire section, like a long, it was very good of him to do that too. And he also said that the temple, no stone would be left unturned. And 40 years later, after Jesus' death, or after he said that, 40 years later, the temple was completely destroyed by the Romans. Just give me a second, I'm going to take a sip here. Very difficult for me to swallow because I have dysphonia in my throat. Very difficult to speak, so bear with me. So let's speak about some signs of today. Man and woman. See what's happening right now with you know, a man is a woman is a man. All the transgender movement. What's happening right now is insane, don't you think? I know the statistics. I'm good with remembering stats. And it was, so it was Jordan Peterson who said, this was only 5 years ago. So what's happened in the last 5 years has gone up exponentially. Like we're talking 10, 20, 30 times. And the reason is social media. Okay, we all know this is the devil. People think they're trans, and I think in women and men, maybe equally, it was about 1 in 3,000 people who were really, you know, body dysmorphia, or what you call it. And what's happening is, okay, so that's an end times sign, isn't it? That's an end times sign because the devil wants to destroy people. He wants to destroy the workings of God, which is family, which is, you know, Satan wants to reverse everything. God's people, his image, right? He wants to kill family. He wants to kill family. He wants to reverse everything that God has done. And that won't go for long. So I've written things down here, and here's another sign. See, I watched some of these channels that talk about this, and I decided to do this because I saw some people giving bad information about certain things. What if you miss the rapture? What happens? If you miss the rapture, then you'll be in quite a bit of agony, especially if you know, say if I tell my brother, right, and I tell him, and I tell him, and I tell him, and I tell him, and he doesn't listen, and then all of a sudden the rapture happens. Well, how do you think he's going to feel when that happens? He'd probably hang his head in agony, wouldn't he? And you know, you'd probably feel pretty scared, surprised, not knowing what to do. Then you remember you'd have to come to Christ, so it wouldn't be good. And a lot of people wouldn't even know. Christians wouldn't even know, because who knows what they're going to use when all of a sudden a number of millions disappears. Here's another sign. In 1948, Israel was reborn in one day. I forget exactly, but it does say that. I'm not sure if it was Isaiah or Ezekiel, one of them, about being born in a single day, and they were in 1948. And what it says in it is that not one generation, so people say, when's the end, when's the end, people keep saying it, and there's a lot of scoffers and stuff. When is the end, when is the end? And so it says when that happens, not one generation shall pass. So what does that mean exactly? That means that so say they were born, say 1948, you might say, well, what if a person was, what if a woman, your grandmother at the time, was 100 years old? It doesn't mean that her won't pass. If you were 5 years old, if you were 20 years old, I think what it means is a generation, and a generation equals, I think at the most, and this is being disputed, we're at the 75th year. So it's been 75 years. And what is a generation? And, back in the old Bible, that could go for a long time. But today, most people know that as 70 or 80 years. So we're about 5 years away from that. And we are in a time where we're in what's something called convergence. The signs that are here right now have never, ever been here before in all human history, and I can prove it. I could put it on a chart and I could show you. You'd have to write down all the signs, and they came like a flood. Post, like COVID showed a lot of government control and communistic-like rule, but it was after the invasion of Ukraine that it really, really went up. Pardon me a sec. It came like a torrent. It was like a flood. More pestilences, floods, droughts, whatever, food shortages, just the strangest weather events happening all over the place that they blame on climate change. That is absolutely not climate change. I was walking around the front of my building here during the summer, and it was a beautiful moonlight, and I was with my brother. No, the first time I wasn't. I was coming back from the grocery store, and I looked over at the moon. It was like a full moon, and clear night sky, and I looked and I saw like what looked like a shooting star, like one that came through the atmosphere and would have hit Earth. Just as good as any YouTube videos. Looked like an asteroid. I'm like, holy cow, I didn't even hear it reported or anything. 2 weeks later, and that's a very strange event to see, and you don't hear anyone else reporting it. And these are being reported over the world. Walking with my brother, and he didn't see it. I'm in the same spot almost, looking at the same area of the sky at the moon, and it happened again. These things just didn't happen, before. The earthquake in Turkey that just happened was just horrific, and I hate to tell you, but this is just the beginning. This is the beginning. And when you tell people that and you say, hey, don't you notice things are a bit strange? Like things are, I can promise you, would I be a prophet if I told you that these weather events, not climate change, because if it gets earthquakes, never mind 10 volcanoes that have woken up in a 5-month period, that they're not going to stop. Would that make me a prophet, or is that just me reading the Bible? It's just me reading the Bible, and it's true, but it's so hard to point it out to other people. God chooses to blind those who he will blind. And all you can do for those people is pray. So like my family, I pray, you know, because it pains me. It really does. I watch politics. I watch politics. I mainly focus on North America. So I live in Canada, and I've watched politics for a long time, and I've studied war, not in school, but by myself for about 20 years, and I've watched politics for about 20 years. And I watch the president, Joe Biden, and everyone before him. So it was from Trump. It's Biden. That administration I find to be the most evil administration I've ever seen. I've never heard the public being so gaslighted. I don't like that word, but it fits. They lie outright. You know, they have their spokeswoman there. You know, their press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. You almost feel sorry for the person who has to be in that role because they lie about everything. I mean, what are you supposed to do with such people? But this was foretold, wasn't it? And you know what? They're corrupt as hell. I've never seen such corruption in my life. And you look at them because you know the stories behind them that are endless about deals, about, you know, his son, and there's a lot of people in U.S. politics that are very corrupt. I could go on a long time about that. Give me another second here. It's very difficult for me to speak on video, or to speak, period. A lot of people talking about, you know, this spy balloon. They knew right away. They knew when that thing was on the ground. They knew when it was taking off, and I don't know exactly what, you know, what China's modus operandi is. You know, there's a whole bunch of possibilities, right? Like, why would they use that when they have satellites? The satellites are much more powerful, so it's easy for people who are untrained in that type of knowledge to understand. But it's good that the country gets up like that. And by the way, it takes the United States to wake up to that, for the president to act, and that tells you right there, that's what you have to do. You have to rise to these things. But they're either trying to provoke. That balloon can't do anything more than a satellite. A satellite can pick up a license plate number, okay? But it did stop over the nuclear reactors, and so they're like, is this a dry EMP run? Are they just provoking us? Or are they testing our response time? Because, you know, the United States is all about social media. Think about what China could watch, their reactions, right? They're gonna be able to see these things in real time. But what they don't know is what's happening behind the scenes in the military. People are incorrect about the U.S. military calling it weak and stuff like that because of the way society is right now. Because of, you know, there's a lot of weak men and stuff like that. The U.S. military is not weak. I'll tell you that. They may not be prepared. They may be. Their weapons are far more advanced than what China has and Russia. I'm telling you, what they have is much more advanced. In drones too. They have so much funding, it's insane. The military budget for the U.S., you know, I don't know what it is now, but it's at least 2 to 3 times what China is. But China is outbuilding them right now, which can be, that is alarming. But you have to remember, all sides have mutual assured destruction, which means if you nuke my country, I have a submarine at sea that can take an entire continent. So that's the way it is. I'm giving the news here and the signs that I see. What else did I want to say? I wanted to talk about Russia. So we the Ezekiel 38:39 and the pact. You can see that with Iran. Iran, Turkey, Russia, and Syria. And just before the earthquake happened, they were going to get together. Or Vladimir Putin was asking for them to be together. So everything that's supposed to be happening is falling in place. But what I wanted to say about the Ukraine war is this. And I'm not on any side, okay? But this is what people don't know. And I hope I hope I can record this long. There's a reason why the Russian people support him, and I'll tell you why. That war he launched because, and he had his own radio station. I think there was RT, and he had another station, his own personally owned station, like a C-SPAN. He talked for over 15 years or something. Don't encroach on my territory. Don't bring ballistic missiles on my doorstep. Many people knew this. Many people watched this. They translated all his stuff. I watched some of his stuff. Do I think he's evil? I would probably say yes, for some reasons. But his reasoning for the invasion was sound. So you have to ask yourself, what would the United States do if Mexico started getting all other countries on their border with ballistic missile programs? How long do you think the United States would wait before they invaded? Think of 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, when they started to bring missiles to Cuba. They blocked the ships, and they did the Bay of Pigs invasion. So that's to give you an idea. So give me a sec here. So they support him for a reason. Before the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991, you have to think of it this way. Their country didn't have a lot of crime. People were able to go to school. They were able to go to university. People had jobs. And everything they had, all the money they had, with the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, it was like a power vacuum, and there was so much crime up from 1991 to 1999. And what I heard someone say was the worst period of Russian history. I don't know if you can compare it to Stalinism and all that type of stuff, but supposedly it was quite bad. There was so much crime, and the United States and other countries were raping their industrial, their mineral, their gold wealth, like capitalists and stuff like that. And so people didn't feel safe. People that had money in the bank and jobs, all of a sudden it was all gone. So after everything broke down and there was chaos, Vladimir Putin was created. That's how it happened. And so he saved them and he kept them safe. And is he a tyrant? Yes. Is he an oligarch? He's a top oligarch, yes. There are other people under him that are oligarchs, very rich, but they have no power. They have no real power. And so the invasion was also based on the Donetsk region, and there was a Minsk agreement signed in 2014 or 15, and the Ukrainians didn't hold to it. And from what I understand, it was them who kept bombing and shooting, and they had enough, and so they invaded. I am not saying what they did in invasion and killing on both sides 150,000 people on each side, dead, like 300,000 dead, and who knows how many. Horrible. And pray for them. It is bad. So, and it seems that the West is pushing it. They're pushing and pushing. I believe it's Russia who wants a peace deal. It's Vladimir Putin. I think they avoided the peace deal, and so here are all the signs. Things are getting worse. They're pushing so far that I believe we're in World War III because of the weapons we're giving to them, and I believe they're trying to push soldiers to get soldiers in there, and it's a military-industrial complex who is benefiting, not the people of the nations. They're not. No one in the U.S. is benefiting, but the billionaires and the millionaires who do this themselves. There are many signs out there. I should write this down. I will write this down a lot better the next time. I just wanted to start this channel. I can't get out. I have a lot of pain, and I'm housebound except for maybe a couple walks per day. So welcome to my channel. I'll try to provide you with the signs, and I believe it's the end. We're in the end. We're very, very close. I believe personally that the rapture is this year for the church. That's my own personal belief. For things I've looked into, investigated, the signs that I see in society. Thanks for watching today's video.